To give context to anyone who hasn't heard, Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype, Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan," end quote. I can't wrap my head around this.
Well, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow.
Okay, that's... There's...
You moron.
Look.
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that. Yeah, boo.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I can question your faith if this is what you said.
That's... I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God. Of course he's the Son of God, and of course he's real.
You can say two different things. You can say that on a podcast, and you can say this here.
On the podcast, nobody would have understood it that way. I think you're twisting it that way, which is not very Christian. Which is not very Christian.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
It's not. And I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
Thank you.
I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
If you want to see what the right has devolved into, here we have a Republican congressman getting confronted at a Tea Party fundraiser by a young girl who felt like he likened Jesus to a fictional character, and then Dan Crenshaw snapping at that young girl for even daring question his religion. I mean, dear God, this is just Fox News Mad Libs with everyone jockeying to be more Jesus-y than everyone else as the GOP sprints farther and farther to the right. And look, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of whether calling Jesus a hero archetype suggests that you don't believe Jesus was a real character because A, I won't purport to know what Dan Crenshaw means when he says something, but B, I don't care, and none of us should. Why? Because politics isn't church, and church isn't politics. In fact, that distinction, the separation of church and state, is so important that it's right there in the very first clause of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, the Establishment Clause. And yet Republicans, the self-described textualists, have decided that that part of the text in the Constitution doesn't actually matter. And so here we are at a political event arguing about Jesus Christ, because the Constitution. And yet this sprint to the far right is par for the course within the GOP. The fact that Liz Cheney has become a pariah in the Republican Party really does say it all. Liz Cheney, who voted with Trump 93% of the time, Dick Cheney's daughter, that even she isn't sufficiently conservative because she's willing to acknowledge objective reality that the election wasn't stolen and that Trump was responsible for the events of January 6th. And yet, somehow, that puts her in the same camp as AOC. If you needed a snapshot of where today's GOP is, it's exactly that. And why is this happening? Because the Republican Party has given up on trying to legislate and has instead gone all in on culture wars and identity politics. They know they can't win on any semblance of a platform because their beliefs are tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires, pretending climate change doesn't exist, and stripping women of their reproductive rights. Who's going to vote for any of that? And so instead, they have to divert your attention onto issues with emotional appeal. And if you're a Christian, what's going to have more emotional appeal than Jesus, than their literal deity? That's why it's nothing more than war on Christmas and war on Christianity. That's why Fox News, having dove headfirst into white grievance politics, is a steady stream of white replacement theory fear porn. All of this is being done on purpose. Whether these people controlling the narrative actually give a shit about this stuff is a whole other topic, but it satisfies their strategy of gripping their supporters' attention, of ensuring that they're less concerned about legislation and more concerned about matters of identity. This is a ploy by the people in charge to manipulate their supporters into supporting a party that won't actually help them in government, but who will appeal to their emotions for the sake of getting elected, which is par for the course for a party that doesn't actually stand for anything other than their own desperation to hold power. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.